Vladimir Putin is the face of 21st century Russia. He's been in power for 18 years. This March, he sealed another 6-year term in office. He won 76% of the vote. At a news conference after the result, the Russian president laughed off the possibility of another term. But he seems to have changed his mind now. Will Vladimir Putin be Russia's president for life is the question we are discussing tonight. The Speaker of the Russian Parliament has raised this possibility. In a meeting with President Putin himself, Vyacheslav Volodin has said that it is a good time to re-examine the provisions of the Constitution. The Kremlin has released transcripts of this, setting off speculation. Will the Constitution be amended to remove term limits for President Putin? The Kremlin has not spoken one way or the other. But more importantly, they've not denied it. Vladimir Putin has been in power for almost 2 decades now. His 4th term as president ends in 2024. He'll be more than 70 years old then. The present constitution of Russia does not allow a president more than 2 consecutive terms. He faced this earlier as well. Back in 2008, when Putin completed 2 terms as president, he circumvented this law. Putin promoted his Prime Minister, Dmitry Medvedev, as president for 4 years. He made a comeback in 2012. For these 4 years, Putin served as Medvedev's Prime Minister, essentially still in control of the state. Will he do the same in 2024? Will he change the constitution and the charade of playing Prime Minister? Or will he retire altogether? Who can say? The fact is that there is virtually no political opposition in Russia and nobody to fill Putin's shoes in the government as of now. The buzz is that he will take a cue from his friend, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and scrap term limits to appoint himself president for life. Everyone's watching this closely. The West sees Vladimir Putin as a dictator. He has amassed more power, not just at home, but outside Russia's borders as well. Under Putin, Moscow has become a force to reckon with. Recently, the president spoke out on a number of global issues. The annexation of Crimea, to start with, that happened in 2014. It stunned the West. Russia's relationship with Ukraine has remained strained since then. Recently, a major escalation of tensions between Russia and Ukraine dominated international headlines. Russian forces had fired on Ukrainian naval vessels near Crimea. Putin blames Kiev for this standoff.
Рассчитывали, что кто-то из них погибнет, на самом деле. И большое неудовольствие, я вижу, в правящих кругах вызвало то обстоятельство, что никто не погиб. Рассчитывали, что кто-то из них погибнет. Вот. Но, слава богу, этого не случилось. Идет следствие. После уголовного разбирательства будет ясно, что с этим дальше делать.
Putin's annual press conference came after President Donald Trump announced the withdrawal of American troops from Syria. While endorsing the decision, Vladimir Putin questioned America's role in Syria and Afghanistan. He claimed that America's involvement in Syria is not legitimate. He raised doubts over the Trump administration's intent.
Серьезные удары по ИГИЛ в Сирии. Существует опасность перетекания этих группировок и им подобных в соседние регионы, в Афганистан, но и в другие страны, в страны исхода, откуда они приехали, они туда отчасти возвращаются. Это большая опасность для всех нас.
Putin also accused America of raising the risk of a nuclear war. He was referring to the Trump administration's decision to withdraw from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. This was a landmark deal, remember. It was signed in 1987. It banned thousands of small and medium-range missiles. It brought the Cold War to an end. Now, Donald Trump wants to tear this treaty apart. He claims that Moscow has violated the deal already.
И очень жаль, что вот такая тенденция недооценки, она имеет место быть и даже нарастает. Сейчас делают еще один шаг. Выходят из договора по ликвидации ракет средней и меньшей дальности. Что будет с этим? Очень трудно себе представить, как будет развиваться ситуация дальше. А если эти ракеты появятся в Европе, что нам делать? Конечно, надо будет обеспечить свою безопасность какими-то шагами. Пусть потом не пищат по поводу того, что мы добиваемся каких-то преимуществ. Мы не преимуществ добиваемся, а баланс сохраняем, обеспечиваем свою безопасность.
Speaking from a position of authority, Vladimir Putin has had an eventful year in office. He's firmly in power at home. He's making strides abroad, from the Syrian war to the peace talks in Afghanistan, from spy games in the UK to stamping his authority in Central Asia. Vladimir Putin is emerging as the undisputed czar of global politics.
Ура!
He's won a record 4 times.
Клянусь при осуществлении полномочий президента Российской Федерации.
15 years on Russian President Vladimir Putin is still vogue. Putin, a black belt in judo, relishes his macho image. An image that's made him a formidable player in global politics. At 65, Putin has made no secret of his determination to reassert Russian power against US and NATO allies. Despite the long rule, Putin's approval ratings have remained high. His brand of patriotism dominates Russian media, skews coverage in favor of him and puts opposition leaders in jail, and silences dissenters. In his first 2 terms as president, Mr. Putin was buoyed by oil and gas profits. But that has changed. The world is now looking at an uncertain future for the oil market. His 3rd term was marked by more controversies, allegations of absolutism, religious orthodoxy under the powerful church, protesters marginalized, including the most prominent opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, who was jailed under corruption charges. The church under Putin has supported a ban on groups spreading gay propaganda among teenagers. The church is back in focus over the Ukraine war and the breaking away of a faction of the Orthodox Church in favor of Ukraine as the seat of religious conservatives. International concern about human rights in Russia have grown with the jailing of oligarch Mikhail Khodorkovsky, once one of the world's richest billionaires, and of anti-Putin activists from the punk group Pussy Riot. World leaders are conscious of Putin's rising clout, but Donald Trump admires Putin for his style. However, he has been wary of the headlines around his ties with Russian businesses,
Donald J. Trump,
and Russian interference in US elections in favor of Trump himself. US prosecutors accuse a long-standing Putin ally, oligarch Yevgeny Prigozhin, of orchestrating Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. The alleged meddling has prompted the US to impose more sanctions on officials close to Mr. Putin, a controversy that has surrounded Trump's presidency. Russia is no longer a strategic partner of the EU as well. The West accuses Putin of helping the pro-Russian rebels in eastern Ukraine with heavy weapons and troops. The West also accuses him of meddling in Syria in favor of Bashar al-Assad. Mr. Putin's relations with the UK have soured too over the 2006 radioactive poisoning of anti-Putin campaigner Alexander Litvinenko in London. Agents of the Russian state were accused of murdering him, and more recently, the nerve agent attack on a former Russian spy and his daughter, Sergei Skripal. Controversially, he has also backed Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, a man now being accused of ordering the brutal murder of dissident Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. These visuals are evidence that Mohammed bin Salman has the support of the powerful oligarch. But he's also playing peacemaker. Putin has been part of talks with the Taliban and the Afghan government to initiate a peace process and to bring the Taliban to the talking table. Significantly, India, China and Russia are also advancing the cause of liberalization and promotion of free trade, as the 3 countries held a trilateral meeting recently to take on US administrations to move towards protectionism and unilateralism.
One of Russia's biggest strengths is its military. The former KGB spy turned president understands the significance of military muscle in global power play. Under Vladimir Putin, Russian forces have undergone major weapons upgrade. Russia is now making some of the world's most advanced strategic weaponry, and today it unveiled a hypersonic missile. The US says it is defenseless for now. Putin calls it his New Year gift to his country.
Есть окончание точного приведения. Первой ступени.
This Russian missile can travel faster than the speed of sound.
Есть контакт подъема. Старт. Начало отсчета.
Vladimir Putin himself witnessed the first test of this hypersonic missile. He later declared that this potent weapon, called the Avangard, will guard Russia for decades.
Новая система «Авангард» неуязвима для сегодняшних и для перспективных средств ПВО и ПРО вероятного противника. Это большой успех и большая победа. Тематики. Уже в следующем году система «Авангард» будет поступать на вооружение. Будет сформирован полк, который приступит к боевому дежурству.
The Russian president first announced this hypersonic missile back in March. Moscow claims it's highly maneuverable and can easily evade missile defense systems. Russia says the Avangard can be armed with a nuclear weapon and can travel up to 20 times the speed of sound. Russia's new weapon has given America a fresh headache. The Pentagon claims that it's vulnerable to the Avangard. The Americans are now going to accelerate plans to develop hypersonic missiles themselves. According to reports, the first set of an American hypersonic system was supposed to be inducted before 2023. Close behind is China, which has also stepped up its efforts to induct hypersonic weapons in its arsenal. In August, China claimed it had tested the Starry Sky 2. According to the Chinese state media reports, the weapon flew for more than 5 minutes and touched speeds of more than 6,000 kilometers per hour. America now finds itself in the middle of a new arms race, one that it is hopelessly underprepared for. Bureau Report, Wion, World is One.
It's not just weapons that the Russian president relies on. He's known for his charm offensive, proving to be the most popular pin-up face for calendars in Japan. Putin knows the power of PR. He releases dramatic videos. He pulls up his own government for poor performance on camera, and then he goes dancing at wedding parties. Take a look.
An authoritarian as described by the West, or a nationalist who doesn't take no for an answer? Perhaps the best word to describe the Russian president is power. At least that's what he likes to project. Whether it's physical power, like in these visuals where a shirtless Putin shows off his machismo, or political power, one that is showcased inside the Kremlin. Back in 2017, President Putin did not shy away from publicly pulling up his transport minister. He reprimanded Minister Maxim Sokolov over the crisis that broke at Vim Airlines. It happened in front of the full cabinet and the cameras.
Вот мы сейчас с председателем правительства обсуждали это. Я обращаю внимание курирующего транспорт вице-премьера. Вы недостаточно внимания уделяете этой отрасли. Недостаточно. Может быть, вы перегружены слишком. Мы уже говорили об этом. И хочу министру сказать. Я объявляю вам о неполном служебном соответствии. Если справитесь с этой ситуацией быстро и эффективно, тогда мы подумаем с Дмитрием Анатольевичем, что делать вот с этим неполным служебным соответствием. Если не справитесь, то тоже подумаем. Прошу вас быстро и эффективно проблему эту закрыть. И не только эту проблему закрыть, а представить предложение по урегулированию ситуации в целом. по усилению нормативного правового регулирования этой сферы деятельности, по повышению ответственности перевозчиков. И контроль нужно наладить за тем, как исполняются нормы, требования, соответствующие критерии. Они действенными должны быть, действенными, понятными и прозрачными.
All this makes Vladimir Putin the most defining statesman of modern-day Russia. It would perhaps be most appropriate to call him the Tsar. Bureau Report, Wion, World is One.
So will he stay or will he go after his term ends? Let me wrap this up with a quick explainer. Will the constitutional change in Russia happen? Most likely it will, but not immediately. We've spoken to experts. They say that Putin is associated with stability in Russia. Nobody in the country wants a repeat of the 1990s. The working class loves Vladimir Putin. If the oligarchs and the elite throw their weight behind the idea, the constitution of Russia will be amended. Question number 2. What does Putin want himself? Some say he's power hungry. He hasn't let the opposition flourish. He wants to continue in office. Others say that he's trapped. He got the tiger by the tail. He cannot let go of the presidency because there is no alternative, what we call in India, the Tina factor. What does this mean for the world? A stable Russia is the best case scenario. As of today, only Putin can guarantee it. Russia has the highest number of nukes after the US. If the state disintegrates, if the state is under a weak head, there is no saying how dangerous Russia can be. What about India? What does New Delhi want? Expect nothing to be said on record. It's Russia's internal matter. But Delhi will want Russia to remain an important player in a multipolar world. India will welcome anything that does not lead to the weakening of the Russian state. Russia, for the past 2 decades, has been ruled by one individual. Now the challenge is for him to find a way to transfer this power to an institution or to multiple institutions, unless he finds another individual to replace him. In Indian politics, like I said, we call it the Tina factor. There is no alternative. That, for the moment, is Russia's story. We're all used to Donald Trump's surprises, be it the financial markets or withdrawal of troops from Syria and Afghanistan. This Christmas, President Trump paid a surprise visit to American troops at the Al-Assad air base in Iraq. The visit is significant for 2 reasons. One, this is Trump's first trip to a conflict zone in his 2 years of presidency. Second, this is Trump's first visit since he decided to withdraw US troops from Syria. What he certainly did was send out a message loud and clear.
America shouldn't be doing the fighting for every nation on earth, not being reimbursed in many cases at all. If they want us to do the fighting, they also have to pay a price. And sometimes that's also a monetary price. So we're not the suckers of the world. We're no longer the suckers, folks. And people aren't looking at us as suckers.
Trump made it clear that the US is not planning to withdraw troops from Iraq, but defended his decision on Syria.
Our presence in Syria was not open-ended and was never intended to be permanent. 8 years ago, we went there for 3 months and we never left. But now we're doing it right. And we're going to finish it off. 1 year ago, I gave our generals 6 more months in Syria. I said, go ahead, get them. And it turns out it was really 1.5 years ago. I said, go get them. We need 6 months. Go get them. Then they said, give us another 6 months. I said, go get them. Then they said, can we have one more, period of 6 months? I said, nope. I said, I gave you a lot of 6 months, and now we're doing it a different way.
Trump insisted that rebuilding war-torn Syria requires political solutions. The US president put the onus on Syria's neighboring countries, Turkey and Saudi Arabia, to help restore normalcy.
It's a solution that should be paid for by its very rich neighboring countries, not the United States. Let them pay for it, and they will. They will. In fact, Saudi Arabia yesterday, you probably read, stepped up to the plate and has already made a commitment of substantial funds for development. And President Erdogan of Turkey has also agreed to take out any remnants of ISIS, and we'll be working with them.
Trump's message was remarkably simple, that the U.S. is not the policeman of the world. The U.S. will be ready to fight terrorism on its own soil. Several countries have warned of a potential rise in Islamist terrorism due to withdrawal of U.S. troops. But Trump is unconcerned, he says. He's issued a stern warning instead.
Some people say, well, maybe somebody comes from the area and they hit us on our homeland. If that happens, they will suffer consequences over here like nobody has ever suffered before. Let me just tell you, and I hope they hear that loud and clear, and that's not a threat, that's going to be a fact.
Not a threat, it's going to be a fact, he says. Meanwhile, Iraq's political leaders condemn Donald Trump's surprise visit. They see it as a violation of Iraq's sovereignty. A meeting between Trump and Iraqi Prime Minister Adil Abdul Mahdi was also cancelled due to a disagreement over the venue. Remember, Donald Trump did not go to Baghdad during this visit. Melania Trump and National Security Advisor John Bolton accompanied the president for this visit, which was kept a secret till he left Iraq. Trump's visit is also the first by an American president to Iraq since Obama's 2009 visit. Now, if you have to define global markets in this week, the best you can do is pick the word volatile. Christmas Eve saw Wall Street clocking steep losses. If you are a trivia person, hear this out. It's the worst ever trade on a Christmas Eve since the Great Depression in America. And yesterday, Wall Street rallied just as sharply. Significantly, the rise and fall in US markets was reflected in Asian markets and European markets. But should we just blame volatility? If you look at the markets on a year-to-date basis, this year could still mark the first bear market in nearly a decade. Now, what is a bear market? A market where indices drop 20% from the highs clocked over the previous 52 weeks. It's not all that gloomy, though, we're told. For emerging markets like India, fundamentals are more important than what happens on the Wall Street. And if you look closely, the stocks that fell have also risen. On Wall Street, it was the FANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix and Google. These stocks pushed markets to record highs. Tech stocks in India have also reacted sharply to global volatility. The next shock could come from anywhere. Fall in US prices, the US-China trade war, political uncertainties across the world, even Donald Trump's Twitter habits. One thing is for sure, global markets are in for a roller coaster in the upcoming year.